Cold winds blew through the streets of Chicago as Emily wrapped her thin coat tighter around herself. She had just finished another exhausting shift as a maid in a luxury hotel, cleaning up after people who never even acknowledged her existence. As she walked toward the subway station, her eyes caught sight of a man sitting near a trash bin. His clothes were torn, his face covered in dirt, and he was shivering from the cold. Passers-by avoided him, pretending he did not exist. But Emily could not do the same. She stepped closer, kneeling beside him. "Sir, are you all right?" she asked gently. The man barely looked up, his eyes dull with hopelessness. He nodded weakly, but his body trembled. "You have not eaten, have you?" she asked. He did not respond, but his silence spoke louder than words. Without hesitation, she reached into her bag and took out the sandwich she had saved for later. "Here, you need this more than I do." The man hesitated before taking it, his hands shaking as he held the food. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily smiled. "Do you have a place to stay?" The man looked down. Nowhere. Her heart ached. She had very little herself, but she could not ignore someone suffering. "Come with me. There is a small shelter a few blocks away. They can help." The man hesitated, but saw the sincerity in her eyes. Slowly, he stood up. Emily supported him as they walked. When they reached the shelter, she spoke to the staff, making sure he was given a warm meal and a place to rest. Before leaving, she turned to him. "Things will get better. Just do not lose hope." The man watched as she disappeared into the night. He did not know why a stranger had shown him kindness, but something about her words stayed with him. Emily continued her daily routine, but something felt different. She could not shake off the thought of the man she had helped. Had he managed to rebuild his life, or was he still struggling on the cold streets of Chicago? She had always believed that small acts of kindness mattered, but she had never expected to feel so connected to a stranger. One evening, her shift at the luxury hotel was longer than usual. A VIP guest had checked into the presidential suite, and the entire staff was on high alert. The managers whispered excitedly, their faces filled with nervous energy. "I cannot believe who just arrived," one of them murmured. "He is one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. He went off the radar for a while, but now he is back, stronger than ever." Emily barely paid attention. Rich guests came and went all the time, their lives a world apart from hers. She grabbed her cleaning supplies and walked toward the elevator. The higher she went, the more luxurious the hotel became. She had never stepped foot on this floor before. She knocked gently on the suite door. "Housekeeping," she announced. A deep voice from inside responded, "Come in." Emily pushed the door open and stepped inside. The sight in front of her made her freeze. Sitting comfortably on the lavish couch was the same man she had found starving on the street, but he was completely transformed. His hair was neatly styled, his face was clean-shaven, and he wore a perfectly tailored suit. The exhaustion and hopelessness she had seen in his eyes were gone, replaced with confidence and power. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, a small smile appeared on the man's lips. "I was hoping I would see you again," he said. Emily felt her breath catch. I do not understand," she stammered. He stood up, his presence commanding. "I never got to thank you properly," he said. "That night you saved me. You did not know who I was, yet you still helped me. Now, I want to return the favor." Emily shook her head, her mind spinning. "But you were a beggar?" he finished. "Yes. I lost everything. I gave up, but your kindness reminded me that life was not over. I decided to fight back. And now, I am here." Emily could hardly believe what she was hearing. A single act of kindness had changed everything. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. The man standing before her was nothing like the helpless, starving soul she had found on the street. He looked powerful, confident, and completely transformed. But his eyes still held that same warmth, the same gratitude she had seen that night. "You look shocked," he said with a small chuckle, walking closer. "I suppose I owe you an explanation." Emily nodded, unable to find her voice. He gestured toward the couch. "Please, sit." She hesitated. Maids were not supposed to sit in a guest's suite, let alone talk to them like equals, but something about him made her feel safe. Slowly, she sat on the edge of the couch, gripping her hands together to stop them from shaking. He sat across from her and leaned forward. "My name is Alexander Cole," he said. "I was once the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. I had everything: money, power, success, but I trusted the wrong people. My business partners betrayed me, my accounts were drained, and in just a few months I lost everything." Emily listened intently, hanging on to every word. "I was too ashamed to ask for help," Alexander continued. "One day, I walked out of my office with nothing but the clothes on my back. I convinced myself that my life was over. I wandered the streets for months, too broken to fight back. Then I met you." Emily swallowed hard. "I did not do much," she whispered. "I just gave you a sandwich." He smiled. "To you it was just a sandwich. To me it was hope. No one had looked at me like a human being for a long time. You did not see me as worthless. That changed something inside me." Alexander leaned back, exhaling deeply. "That night at the shelter, I decided I would not give up. I reached out to an old friend who believed in me. He helped me start over. It took time, but I rebuilt my company. And now, I am back, stronger than ever." Emily still could not believe it. "That is incredible," she said softly. He studied her for a moment. "And now, I want to help you." Her eyes widened. "Me? You have spent your life helping others, but who helps you?" Alexander asked. "I know how hard you work. I see it in your hands, in your tired eyes. You deserve more than this." Emily shook her head. "I am just a maid. I do not belong in your world." He smiled. "Neither did I once. But you gave me a second chance, and now I am offering you one. Come work for me." She froze. "Work for you?" "Yes," he said. "Not as a maid. I need someone I can trust, someone kind, honest, and hard-working. I want to give you the life you deserve." Emily's mind raced. This was impossible, too good to be true. But when she looked into Alexander's eyes, she saw sincerity. For the first time in her life, someone was offering her a future she never thought possible. Emily stared at Alexander, her mind struggling to process his words. Work for him. In what world did a hotel maid get an opportunity like this? She wanted to believe it, but doubt crept in. I do not know what to say," she finally whispered. Alexander leaned forward. "Say yes," he said softly. "I know it is unexpected, but you changed my life when you had no reason to. Let me do the same for you." Emily hesitated. "But I have no experience working in an office. I do not have a fancy degree or special skills. What could I possibly do for you?" He smiled. "You have the most valuable skill of all, compassion. I need people around me who I can trust, people who see beyond wealth and status. You treated me like a human being when no one else did. That is what I need in my company." Emily's heart pounded. No one had ever spoken to her like this before, as if she truly mattered. She had spent her entire life cleaning up after people who never even looked at her. Could she really step into a different world? "What would my job be?" she asked cautiously. "I will start you as my personal assistant," Alexander said. "You will handle my schedule, attend meetings with me, and learn how the business world works. If you ever feel it is not for you, you can walk away. No pressure." Emily bit her lip. The offer was tempting, but fear still held her back. "And if I fail?" Alexander chuckled. "You will not. But even if you struggle, I will be there to help you, the same way you helped me." Her eyes welled with tears. No one had ever believed in her before. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "All right, I will do it." A wide smile spread across Alexander's face. "Good. Welcome to your new life, Emily." Over the next few months, everything changed. Emily left her job at the hotel and started working for Alexander. The transition was not easy. She made mistakes, felt overwhelmed, and sometimes wondered if she had made the right choice. But Alexander was always patient. always encouraging. Slowly, she grew into her new role. She learned how to navigate the corporate world, how to handle pressure, how to speak with confidence. She no longer walked with her head down, afraid of being invisible. She stood tall, knowing she had a place where she belonged. One evening, as she sat in Alexander's office going over his schedule, he looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "you are not the same girl who walked into my suite that night." Emily smiled. "And you are not the same man I found on the street." He chuckled. "No, we both changed. And I have never been more grateful." She looked around the office, at the life she had built. It had not been easy, but it had been worth it. Because kindness had changed everything.